Hello and welcome to another episode of Words with Myself. Christmas is almost upon us, and in my line of work, things start to quiet down around this time of year, and companies tend to not start new projects until the new year, especially because a lot of people like to take time off around Christmas. And during this winding down period is a good time to take stock and do yearly reviews, which not just in work life, but it's a good time in general to do this. It's a very seasonal thing to do. It's not time to be doing new things or planting seeds. That's spring, and summer is enjoying the fruits of your labor, but winter is very sheltered and staying in and hibernating and kind of reviewing the year so far, and it's a very introspective time of year. But as part of these yearly reviews that I do with my clients, we was having a conversation and they said something that stuck with me. And they said, "We've really liked having you on board because you challenge us." And then proceeded to explain that prior to my engagement, they were making a lot of assumptions or doing things without a real purpose and intention behind them. But during our meetings, I would tend to ask questions like, why are we doing this? Or, what's the intention behind this? What's the reason we're going down this route and not another route? And this helped to clarify purpose and make sure that we were on the right track and doing the right things with the right intention behind them. And they gave one time in particular as an example where they kind of threw out the comment that something couldn't be done. And I said, how do we know that it can't be done? And this simple question was enough to change the entire dynamic of the conversation, so that we were truly evaluating what we were trying to achieve and how we were trying to achieve it. And the reason why they thought it couldn't be done was just because somebody had said that that wasn't possible. And they kind of took it at face value. But when we drilled down and evaluated further, it turned out that it could be done. It just needed a bit of creativity to the approach. These conversations are not limited to work. I've also been told this by friends and family that I'm somebody who challenges their way of thinking. It's not always complimentary, but for the most part, it's received how I intend it because it's done out of love. I like to push people to be the very best of themselves and to not limit themselves or talk bad about themselves or think of themselves as less than they are. Because we all do it. We all make assumptions. We all think that we are more limited than we are. And it does take an outside force sometimes or some third-party information to really shake up our idea of what is possible. And if you look at people who are historic in what they achieve, they are often doing something that people previously thought wasn't possible. And that is what sets a new standard of what is possible or not. But as somebody who challenges other people, I have gotten used to the most common excuses given for why people aren't doing what they want to do. And a lot of the time, the reason given is that people say, I can't do it. And when that's challenged, when you ask them why they think that they can't do it, there's a few different categories. It could either be fear, they're afraid, and that's holding them back. It could be it's not the right time. They don't have the resources or power or ability to actually perform the task. It could be that they don't actually want to do it. They just like the thought of the end result, but don't want to go through the process, so they say they can't do it. Or it could be that it's just fundamentally impossible and it goes against one of the natural laws, in which case it could just be that their approach, how they think the end result will be, that is impossible. Like if we take flight, for instance, it would be easy for you to travel back a couple hundred years and say flying is impossible. Humans can't fly. But when we look at that problem, if you were to be conceptualizing it that I want to make humans fly, you probably wouldn't be thinking about an aeroplane or a helicopter or something like that. You'd be thinking about how to make the human body be capable of flight. Maybe something more related to a wingsuit or something like that. So sometimes you have to reconceptualize your idea of the end result, because if you just, no matter how much you practice, if you keep jumping off of something trying to fly or jumping in your back garden trying to flap your arms, you're not going to fly. However, you can rework the solution to accomplish what you want to accomplish, just maybe not in the way that you want to accomplish it. But for now, let's leave the realm of impossible out of the question, because I don't know if there is anything that is impossible. Maybe it's just that we don't have the knowledge right now to achieve that. I can't say with 100% certainty that anything is impossible. So let's just leave that out of the equation for now. So what we're left with is fear, motivation, and timing. Fear is by far the most common. It's an answer that is given. You say, I can't do it, but when you drill down, what it really means is I am scared to do it. You could be talking with a friend and they say that they want to be an actor, and you tell them to join a local theatre group to get some experience. And they say, yes, but I can't do it. I can't go on stage. And they're not talking about not being physically able. Like, that is outside of the realm of possibility for them to be able to go up on stage. They know that it would be possible, but they're saying they don't have the courage, or they are too afraid to get up on stage. Nothing is actually preventing them from doing it other than themselves. And that is where fear stops us from doing things that we know we would be able to do. But that isn't how people who are afraid experience something. If you were to get someone who is petrified of heights and tell them to jump out of a plane, for them it very much feels impossible. It feels like something that can't be done. When in reality, all they have to do is jump and the rest is done for them. They just have to take that first leap of faith. But their mind is so afraid of what they need to do that it rules it out. It completely overtakes them and says, this is not possible. And the effects of this are far more obvious when you have an extreme example, but it also works for subtle examples as well. The fear affects our ability to perceive what is possible in all manners of day-to-day life. Many people believe that they are unable to set boundaries, that they can't do it, when really all it means is them saying no or stop or something like that. And they do that in a whole variety of different ways, but to a particular individual or in a particular circumstance, they believe that they are unable to affirm those boundaries. It feels like something that can't be done. But when you truly break it down and assess it and confront fear as the blocker of action, you are able to make a workable problem. Instead of saying you can't do it, which is a definitive problem. That's an absolute statement. I can't do it. It now changes it into something workable, where you say, I am afraid to do it, or I'm not sure I'm capable of doing it. These are different problems. These are not absolutes. These are things that can be solved, because instead of saying, I can't do it, you have now presented the problem in its entirety accurately. And if it's fear that is blocking you, you can then find a way to overcome that fear. That is a workable problem. It's not something that is absolute and definitive. It's not saying, I can't do it. It's saying, I could do it, but there are some obstacles in my way. There are some challenges I need to confront and face and solve before doing this, which is entirely different. You've now gone from something that is impossible in your mind to something that is possible but difficult. And that's okay. It's okay for something to be difficult. It's okay for you to need to rise up or get better or improve at something before achieving your goal. But what's not okay is you wanting something or you having a desire in your heart and telling yourself that it's impossible, that you can't have it. Because that's not true. It's not accurate. And any time that you adopt that mindset that it's not possible or it's impossible just for you, you have robbed yourself of the ability to be successful at it, because you've already told yourself it's not possible. So that gives you permission to not have to try, to get out of all of that discomfort and pain and suffering to achieve it. Instead, you just tell yourself that you can't do it. And that gives you this get out of jail free card that you can keep using. And any time that you face something difficult or challenging, you can just say, well, I can't do it. But the more you do this, the more limitations you place on yourself, the more limitations you place on your experience. And you think of yourself as this person who is incapable of achieving many things, when really what it is that you are avoiding all of the discomfort, pain, and challenge of actually doing something worthwhile, of doing something that you want to do. And until you remove fear from this equation, until you remove fear from the reasons why you can't do something, and you really drill down, if you want something, drill down into the absolute reasons why. What is stopping you? What is stopping you from doing what you want to do? Because sooner or later, you're going to get to an answer that is, you are scared of doing what you need to do, or you don't believe that you are capable, which is just another form of fear. And if it's not fear, if you are certain that it's not you holding yourself back, then it better be the only answers that you can bring for why something can't be done is that you don't have the resources, in which case the answer is you need to get the resources and find a way to achieve that. That's a workable problem. Or you don't really want to do it. You think you want it, you think that you want the end result, but you don't have the desire to go through the process. It might be something very intensive, you might not have the time for it, and it might not be something that you want to prioritize. And then you can accept that going forward as this was not something that I wanted to do. This was not something I was willing to invest my time in, rather than I couldn't do it, so I didn't. But be careful with that one, because that's also an excuse. A lot of people will say that they don't have the means or the ability or the time to do something, and really they're just masking fear. They're masking that doubt in their mind that says they can't do it or I can't do it. And when that voice is noisy enough, it masks the real problem. Because instead of confronting the true problem, which is you're afraid that you can't do it, or you're afraid if it all goes wrong, or you're afraid for some other reason, you instead say, I don't have time for that, or I can't be bothered, or I don't really want that. But if this desire keeps coming up, obviously you do want it, and there is something more to the problem. So you need to break down the things that you want to do, the things that you want in your life, the goals, the experiences that you want to have. Write them down and understand them. Understand what it takes to get there. Because when you do this, you understand where the pain points are. You will build a roadmap and you'll say, yeah, but I can't do that until this is done. Or this first step requires a lot of capital, so I need an initial step before that to raise some money. Okay, that's fine. Once the money's acquired, then I go on to the step 2, and then I go into purchasing the resources I need. And then from there, I go into building what I need to build or doing what I need to do. You can see how those steps unfold, and none of them are impossible. They may take time, they may take resources, they may take money, but it's not impossible. So the next time you say, I can't do that, I want you to catch yourself. I want you to reframe it in your mind and say, why can't I do that? What is stopping me from doing that? And instead of saying I can't do that, instead you need to reframe the problem and say, I don't know. I don't know how to do that. Or I need help doing that. Or I don't know what it takes and I need to go and review what it takes to achieve this. Or maybe I need to get better at something first before I do this. But not, I can't do this. Because you can. Thank you for listening.